AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Not where? Midfield. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up, he's hit, and falls forward. And he fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it. It's one. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds. All the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AAT Birds Weekly Report. I myself, Johnny Ulecka, is joined as always by Chip at Chip for the Birds. And it's the playoffs. The Eagles will be taking on playoffs. The Eagles will be taking on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now I know the Eagles have not played like a playoff team the last 6 weeks. So there's a little lackluster in terms of build up in the air. But again, this is the playoffs. The Eagles go to Tampa Bay to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday night. Of course, this is a new thing the NFL has started, which we can talk a little bit about that. But a new thing that the NFL has started with the Monday night game. And it is what it is, unfortunately. But the Eagles play Monday night, 8 p.m. It's almost like a week 3 because they played Monday night against the Tampa Bay Bucks. But, Chip?
Why couldn't we have the super secret Peacock game?
Yeah, well, luckily I still have Peacock until.
I mean, I had Peacock, so I would have been fine.
The 16th. Well, then I would have stolen your Peacock if I didn't have it. But look at that. That's a little weird. But let's stop talking about Peacock and let's just talk about the Eagles.
But no, first off, I think what the NFL is doing this specific postseason,
they're making all the Swifties buy Peacock because they're on there. Come on,
ridiculous. I think the fact that they are, first off, putting a NFL playoff game on a streaming service is absolutely absurd. It's one thing to have like a regular season game. Like I get what they're doing there, but for them to take a playoff game and do that, it's a money grab. And then the Monday night thing, like,
oh well, yeah, we know that.
You're actually doing a disservice. Like whoever wins the Monday night game, they better get the Sunday game the following week. Like it's just, I don't know.
They will get the Sunday game. That's how it was last year. I know Dallas played Tampa that Monday night game, and then they got the Sunday afternoon, late afternoon game against the 49ers. That's who they had to play the next week. But yeah, you are at a disadvantage, and we can talk a little bit about that with the Eagles going into this game. And Jose checking in. What's up, Jose? You look at this game and you look at. It is a Monday night. Eagles have to travel down to Florida. And, unfortunately, if they do win the game and all the favorites do win, they have to travel to San Francisco the following week to play, of course, a well-rested team, which has been kind of the story of the season. Eagles, the disadvantage of the schedule. But again, you can't take that and make that as an excuse. This team hasn't been playing well at all. No. And, you and I went a little bit back, talked a little bit about it. You were mentioning the Eagles, when have they played a complete game? And I happened to comment and say the Miami game, I would say it was close, and the first game against Tampa. They were up 25-3. And yeah, there were some, miscues there. But those two games, I guess you could say, were the most comfortable.
They were the most complete games that they played, right? Yeah. They were the most complete games that they played overall, but it does not mean that they were complete games. I think what we need to really, like you mentioned the Tampa game, they offensively looked really good. The Miami game, they looked offensively really good. Where was the weakness? The defense. So there has not been a situation where the entire team has played cohesively, successfully this season. There just isn't.
And it's been just a big time downward spiral since their 10-1 start. And of course, that's what it's 10-1 to 1 and done. Like that's the title of this show. It's just like, you look at the way this season started and they had a lot of close wins. They had a lot of wins that, hey, could have gone either way. And they started out 10-1, and then they just kind of unraveled, and they finished 11-6. And yeah, 11 wins is great and all, but when you look at the way the season ended and the Arizona game, we talked about it last week, but then you look at this game against the New York Giants, and they came out flat, and AJ gets hurt on basically the first series. He goes down, out. Devontae's already out. Swift's out. And they're blitzing. They're getting through like crazy. Jalen has a finger issue, dislocation pop back in, all that stuff. So he hasn't thrown a football since that. Now, I don't think it's really that big of a deal because they've been off. But
they had been off. And, if you look back at the Giants game, it was one of the most disappointing games I have ever seen this team play. And I understand the logic of going out there and making an attempt to win the East because you have to. But for you to go out against a Giants team that is playing a backup quarterback that is the Giants are a bad football team. And for you to allow Wink Martindale to absolutely decimate your starters, and you can make
former Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show with all.
And I think you can talk about the fact that Swift wasn't playing and Smith wasn't playing, and then AJ Brown got hurt.
We found out why Rashad Penny wasn't playing.
What injury did he hurt on his third carry?
Well, no, he just can't pass block. And
he cannot pass block. And I think that, that was a frustrating thing because all those things happened, but our offensive line was the starters. We started our offensive line and they got obliterated from the first minute of that game. And we allowed the Giants to do whatever they wanted. And, again, I understand the logic of pulling your starters pretty quickly because there was no hope. But if you're going to phone it in that quickly, why even try? How do you not get up for the Giants? And once again, you talk about that field and you talk about it claiming injuries. Sidney Brown done for the year. Why? That absolute atrocity of a field. You almost at this point have a class action lawsuit against the people who run the Meadowlands.
And that's tough. That injury is, really tough because he was playing a lot of snaps. He was starting to get a little bit more, in that defensive backfield, getting in a lot more. And Reed Blankenship didn't practice today with, the groin because on the interception, he kind of twisted a little bit. So
you can't have him practice because at this point we have no depth at the safety position. So he can't get hurt. He is not allowed to get hurt.
It's going to be interesting what happens. Devontae said that he will play. So he's
going to play. AJ Brown's going to play. Everybody's going to play. It's the playoffs.
AJ Brown didn't practice.
He's going to play.
I would think he's going to play. DeAndre Smith will play. Avante, Darius Slay. You'll get all these guys. Cunningham. Sure. They're all good to go. Everything. They're all back. I will be very interested to see come Monday night who is the opposite of Darius Slay starting at the outside cornerback position. Because
Bradbury's looked atrocious this season.
Bradbury's looked pretty bad, and you have a young player in Keagy Ringo who has played pretty well, actually. From what you've seen at Bradbury, Ringo has played pretty well, and even Eli Ricks has looked okay in the outside slot, not the inside, but the outside. He's looked pretty good.
But Keagy Ringo has looked pretty good against Tyrod Taylor, Kyler Murray, who was the third
he
team
did play against the Cowboys. He did play some good opponents.
Yeah, but that was very clearly a statement game, and they were going after Bradbury.
But you have to look at it this way. Bradbury, he also played, I believe, against the Seattle Seahawks too. And
so Geno Smith.
Well, listen.
And Drew Lock, I'm not really worried about that.
He still had to play against DK. And then when they put DK on James Bradbury, you saw what happened that last drive.
City. So yes, he's looked good. But again, this is a playoff game. This is going to be very different. And I think you have to start Bradbury because he's one of your big money guys. But it is very disconcerting that one of your big money guys has looked so abysmal this season.
The problem is it's been a lot. And especially these last couple of games, this defense has looked abysmal. It's looked so bad. There's no it just seems like there's no continuity on that side of the ball. There's no communication. Some guys aren't sure what to do. Some guys aren't really knowing what to do. You have Hassan Reddick dropping back into coverage. You have
how much of that, Johnny?
Kevin Byard blitzing from 10 yards away instead of coming close to the line of scrimmage, getting the blitz in a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, then running from 10 yards off, giving the quarterback, hey, this guy's coming. Let me get rid of this ball.
And how much of that, Johnny, because you're better with the defensive scheme stuff. I'm better with the offensive scheme stuff. But how much of that is the move very suddenly from Desai to Patricia and players not knowing where they're going?
It could have a little bit of impact into that when you look at going from Patricia to Desai, because there's a little bit difference in terms of terminology, everything along that. Just Patricia's not going to be able to run 100% of what Desai was running. It's just that they're not the same type of coordinator. But I don't know in terms of if that change really affected them. If a lot of the defensive players were a little taken aback that Desai was, ousted and put upstairs and Patricia came in to do this. To me, it's just like, I understand that, but the missed tackling, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter looked absolutely gassed. There's no energy between the two of them. And I know it's
not surprising with Jalen Carter because this is his first season. We've always talked about this. The rookies hit that wall of where the college season ends. And usually a lot of these college guys are in blowout type situation games where they don't have to play a full 4 quarters in the limited number of games that they have to play. So again, I understand Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis has been battling injuries. I think that one of our biggest concerns has to be the attack on the depth of this team. We went from a team last year where we started, I think it was 22 of our starters from opening day in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. 22 of the offense and defensive starters. Yeah. It was
to what it is this season, which is we are not.
Well, if all goes well with everything, the playoff game, I guess you can consider Nakobe Dean a starter. You will have 21 of 22 starters. I'm just saying you will have 21.
No, because Kevin Byard was not an opening day starter.
Okay, 20 of 22. Okay. I'll give you that. But again, you look at it now. Nick Morrow and Nakobe
technically,
Dean,
DeAndre Swift was not your opening day starter. Kenny Gainwell was.
Okay, all right. Stop that. You're getting
now. I'm being mean. Now I'm being
technicalities. Listen, it's not what it was last year, and I think we were kind of taken aback when I understood the defense may be taking a step back. They weren't going to have 70 sacks again. And we talked about they were going to have injuries. They were so healthy last year. They were going to have injuries, and we've stated that. Now, again, where we maybe said, okay, you look at the roster and the roster that was built, it wasn't deep enough. Maybe we were expecting a little more out of certain players that didn't show up. That could have definitely been Nakobe Dean getting hurt. You had to replace 2 linebackers, replace 2 safeties. You had to replace, defensive tackle had 11 sacks, and maybe Jalen Carter's, big time plays in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. We thought, oh, he's going to be Jalen Hargrave already, which may have been a little bit too naive to think of that way because he is still a young player. He's still learning. He still needs, time to adjust in the NFL because they're going to start to take note of that, and they're going to start to double him. And they're doing those kind of things. But I just think that this team, you're in the playoffs now. This is one and done. You lose, you're done. You go home. The season is over. This isn't like last year where you can, you have a week off in the wild card. You go to the divisional round, and then you get the Giants, and then you get the 49ers.
No, this is not an easy path.
It's not an easy path. And listen, I understand the Buccaneers are at 9-8, but again, you can't take anybody lightly. You just lost to the Cardinals and the Giants. Saying the Bucs are great. I'm not saying that. And of course, when we get to our predictions, I'm sure you and I probably will be on the same page, but you can't take a team like this lightly because what does Todd Bowles do that Wink Martindale does? He blitzes. He's the 3rd highest blitzing defensive coordinator coach, He's not a coordinator, head coach, defensive guy in the league.
And
what the Bucs
anytime you see a team more than once in a season, you have opened the playbook with your own personnel based on what you've put on video. And I think that, and again, you mentioned that we'll get into our picks, but I think that what you need to take in even that X factor of it, the Bucs are playing hungry. This Eagles team is not. This Eagles team has not played hungry pretty much this entire season. I have never seen a talented Eagles team like this come out as flat as they did against the Giants, against the Cardinals. And, there was a time where the offense was really clicking. We're blaming a lot on Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. There was a time where the offense was really, really clicking. That has gone away. So I think that a lot of the blame does need to be placed on Brian Johnson as well. And therefore, the whole thing needs to be placed on Nick Sirianni. I am not one of the people that is going to say the absolute stupidity of firing Nick Sirianni. I think that is moronic, and that's me being as nice as possible. But I do think that there need to be some hard looks at what has gone wrong with this team. And you can list it a lot.
Yeah, and we did see that Brian Johnson has 2 interviews, requested for 2 interviews for the Panthers and the Titans job. And, if he gets a job.
I have a theory about that.
I think I know what your theory is.
My theory very clearly, because there's no way that he is a hot commodity candidate based on what he has done with this team this year. I hate to be this guy, but I do feel like the Brian Johnson requests for interviews are falling under the Rooney Rule.
But I could twist it this way for you.
Please do, because I feel terrible saying it.
What did Nick Sirianni do to get him as the Eagles head coach? You didn't really know of him that much. The Colts were Frank Reich's team. And
he went in and wowed everybody. Sure.
Listen, now, the way I like the Titans job, I think the Titans will be able to get a decent candidate. The Panthers, on the other hand, I understand they have Bryce Young. I get that. But when you look at that franchise, I don't really think it's all too tantalizing. You look at that team and be like, oh, I got to be a head coach of that team. They've got so many weapons. They got all. That's not the case.
But remember what we have always said on this network. There are only 32 head coaching jobs.
Listen, there are, and who knows if somewhere in that front office really likes what they hear about Brian Johnson, really like Brian Johnson, what they think he can do with a quarterback like Bryce Young. I don't know. But I feel like
I understand your logic, especially when it comes to specifically when it comes to the Panthers, because there's the Alabama connection of the quarterbacks, and can you turn Bryce Young into a better situation? But Jalen Hurts took a massive step back this year, a glaring step back this year between the ball security, between decision making, between the footwork has gone completely to crap again. I know we can say he's injured, and we're going to say that because we're looking for any reason to explain these things. But he has taken a massive, massive step back this year.
But I wouldn't say massive step back.
I would.
What about a player like Josh Allen? How many turnovers did he have? How many turnovers? He's lucky that his defense was able to, get him in a good enough position to be able to keep them alive and to not lose that game.
And I'm not set. Like, obviously the turnovers are bad, and there were times where the Bills looked really bad. I think that Josh Allen has looked the way he's looked this year.
Josh Allen has 18 interceptions this year.
What I'm saying is because the team has not played completely around Jalen Hurts, it has been more glaring that Jalen Hurts has regressed.
Listen, I think he's a 25-year-old quarterback.
I'm not saying get rid of the guy.
No. I know that.
I'm just trying to give an honest assessment. I think that he has really stepped back. And when the highlight of your season, yes, he had his couple big passing games, and AJ Brown was, setting records when he was setting records. But I think when the highlights of your season include how many times they converted on a 4th and 1.
Listen, you look at the numbers and you look at everything. Listen, 15 rushing touchdowns. 23 passing touchdowns, 38 total touchdowns. Yes, the interception, the turnovers need to be cleaned up. We get that. I understand that. But listen, you look at it like this. Dak Prescott led the league in interceptions in 12 games last year. This year, turned it all around. It's pretty simple with what you can do in terms of turning things around. And yeah, he was, Jalen's been beat up this year. We know that. We've seen that. Again, also, when your defense, especially the last 6 games of the year, can't get off the field and the time of possession is so drastic, your numbers are going to take a pretty big hit because, one, your defense isn't giving you the ball back, giving you multiple possessions. You're not – that's another thing I like people don't really think about and don't look at is listen, the defense is letting the Cardinals 4 scoring drives of over 70, 50, 60, 70 yards and chewing up the clock. For me, it's you look at that, you look at San Fran, you look at Dallas, you're not able to get off the field and you're giving up the second highest third down percentage, third down conversion rate. You're not going to have the ball as much as you would like that they had earlier in the year because the defense was, playing at a higher level than it is right now.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. The entire packaging of this team has been suspect. The entire team as a whole has not played a complete game. That's my point. So for the Bills, the comparison Josh Allen to Jalen Hurts, yes, the comparison is very fair what you're doing.
And Patrick Mahomes did.
Patrick Mahomes has had a down year.
Pretty big this year.
Patrick Mahomes has had a down year. Tua has had games where he hasn't looked great. I mean, yes, the comparisons are there, but it is more glaring with a guy like Jalen Hurts, who is coming off a Super Bowl run, a Super Bowl caliber effort. Had they won that game, he's the MVP of that game. No brainer. He played outstanding in that game. It has not looked the same. It hasn't.
No, it's listen, it's been
it's concerning going into the playoffs.
A struggle this year. No, I get that. I understand that. But listen, you take a look at the quarterbacks around the league and there's some hiccups. Oh, absolutely.
Because defenses adapt and get better. Sure.
You're going to have that, but this is where you need. Listen. This is the playoffs now.
Agreed.
It's time where you turn it on and you get back to doing what's going to work best for you. This isn't about let's put up huge numbers to make ourselves look good. No, you don't need to do that.
No, go out and get a win.
Week 3, you were able to run the ball for 201 yards as a team, and you were able to throw the ball as well. So that's what they're going to need to do. They're going to need to run the ball, and they're going to need to use that. And try to, and then the problem is, the thing is, you're going to need to run the ball because when a team like Tampa Bay is blitzing as much as they are, you can't just drop back and pass. Now, again, this also is in turn looking at your defense saying you need to be able to stop Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers on third down. The Buccaneers run game is not very good. So you can't be giving them short third downs and be able to let them run the ball on you because then you're going to have a really long night because they still have really good, weapons for Baker in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You can't say that those aren't, good weapons. Now, of course, Baker has to be able to get the ball to them.
But you're talking, this is my X factor. Tampa Bay is motivated to win this game.
And they're at home.
And they want to prove that they aren't just the team that won the NFC South, the team that survived. This Bucs team is more hungry than the Eagles are. And that is my biggest fear right now.
Well, that's going to have to change on Monday. We're going to have to see a hungry Eagles team, a team that's determined, a team that is destined to win the game and, put
that
forth
wins in spite of all the naysayers.
Yeah. And put the effort forth to be able to, beat this team. And hey, if they win, a close game, so be it. Like right now in the playoffs, it is about getting the win and moving on to the next round.
At this point, I don't care what it looks like. I just need it to look a certain way.
exactly. You know,
I need it. I don't care what it looks like. I just need it to look a certain way on the scoreboard. I apologize.
Yeah. So, you know, it's gonna be tough because you know the Buccaneers are no team that you're gonna be a push. I understand they only won 9-0 against the Carolina Panthers, which Panthers have, you know, a top 10 defense, which for how bad they are. Yeah. So, you know, for me, looking at this team, looking at the matchups, when you look at the Eagles and the Buccaneers, you have to look at the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball is for the Eagles against this Tampa Bay offense is the key, because if you're able to get stops and give the ball back to your offense, I think you're going to be in for, you know, a good game there, because you cannot let Tampa control the clock and keep you off the field, because the thing with the Eagles, you can't have Tampa get a lead, an early lead, a double-digit lead, because what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to get to run the ball. They're not going to run the ball, which means in turn, you're going to throw the ball, drop back, pass the ball 35, 40 times, which you can't be doing against a team like Tampa Bay who blitzes. And Jalen Hurts has struggled this year with the blitz. His numbers, you know, it's there.
The whole team has struggled against the blitz.
Yeah, they've struggled picking it up. They struggled, you know, finding those hot routes. They've struggled with a lot of things. And I think that is where you can't be, you know, on your heels and just trying to throw the ball all over the field on the Tampa Bay Bucs because of the way they play their defense.
And if you're choosing to throw the ball, let's get a little creative, because we saw more creativity when Marcus Mariota was in the game than we have seen the Eagles have creativity for months.
Okay.
With routes and play calling and things like that. And Mariota looked terrible.
Yeah, Mariota did look pretty bad, I will say. You know, it comes to the fact of Jalen has to not try to make, like, I understand, like, the escaping to the right, and, you know, especially when everyone's on your left-hand side. You know, there's a play that he escaped to the right and the receivers were on the left. You know, it's pretty difficult to make that completion when everybody else is on the other side of the field. And the bailing out and not
seeing it. He's just not seeing it.
But when you drop back and they blitz and you're running 4 verticals, there really isn't anything to see.
Yeah, he's not seeing it. And I think that the Eagles need to simplify it, give him 1-2 looks max, and then roll him to the left. I mean, they got to do other stuff. And that's, you know, Julie's been saying all night in the comments, they got to commit to running the ball. They do. They have to commit to doing the things that did work early on.
Yeah. No, you have to run the ball, and especially with this offense, you know, to be able to get some chunk yards and continually move the ball. That is how your RPO is going to be effective, because if you're able to effectively run the ball, then you can use that RPO to be play action, to do a whole bunch of things. In my opinion, they need to be able to do now, maybe show some things that you haven't done this year, some wrinkles in the offense. I'd love to see that, but listen, it's going to be difficult. And the one thing that you're seeing, and you mentioned it about, you know, Nick Sirianni, and everyone is upset about Sirianni and about the whole get rid of clean house, get rid of everybody, get all of that.
It's idiotic.
So the Eagles lose big. You know, do the Eagles go ahead and just clean house and fire Sirianni?
So
go ahead.
We understand that in Philadelphia, people like to overreact. We understand that. And yes, Sirianni, because he is such a gentleman full of expression, and he's, you know, he's making it big for the cameras and doing it. Like, we understand that he's kind of a focal piece. Okay. Problem is that he has been the coach for 3 seasons. He's made the playoffs all 3 seasons. He has a Super Bowl appearance. They are not getting rid of Nick Sirianni this season. They will get rid of Brian Johnson. They will get rid of Sean Desai. They will get rid of Matt Patricia. And they will say, hey, we're going to bring in some elite coordinators so you can clean your crap up. And then he will be on the hot seat if they lose badly. If they lose badly, he's automatically starting the season on the hot seat. If they don't lose badly, if it starts off the season poorly, then he'll be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
But again, you're not getting rid of, and people need to stop doing, oh, well, let's bring in Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick will be the worst thing for this team. Worst thing for this team.
listen, I don't think they go that route of getting rid of Sirianni.
Even Doug Peterson got a season before he was canned after winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, like I said, I think what they do is, they have him do the coordinators. If he struggles, then next year he'll be on the hot seat, like you mentioned.
Yeah, they'll bring in a coordinator who has the ability to take over if needed.
Yeah, we'll see. There's other teams that have had, worse runs in terms of a number of years that they weren't very good and losing NFC champion, like the 49ers. They went to a Super Bowl, then they went 6-10. And they went to an NFC championship game lost, NFC championship game lost. And now this year they're the number 1 seed, and what's going to happen? But no one's calling for Kyle Shanahan's head. He's the smartest guy in the room. So again, I think we'll squash that, and maybe that's an off-season topic, depending on what happens Monday, everything like that. We'll put that for down the road. So
yeah, way down the road.
That is what that is.
As Tenacious D said, on a long and lonesome road.
There you go. I like that. Now, let's get into a couple things. Right. Let's start out with...
It's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
Alrighty, so looking at the Ulecka Locks, the Dallas Cowboys winning by 20 points was your lock, and that hit. So
great.
You're all good on that one.
Super duper.
Let me just double check. I thought it was 35-10, 38-10. So yeah, you were correct there. My double one did not hit because I had the Bills winning the division, which they did do, and the Colts winning versus Houston, which they did not. It was Houston who won, and they're moving on to the playoffs, which brings us to this week's Ulecka Locks.
Well, what does that do for the regular season? Who ended up winning the regular season between you and me?
The playoffs. This is the whole season. The playoffs.
Okay.
So, I have Matthew Stafford goes to Detroit, 300 yards, and he wins in Detroit, and the number 6 seed Los Angeles Rams move on to the divisional round. The floor is yours.
I have Jalen Hurts with 2 brotherly shove touchdowns this weekend.
So Hurts 2. All right.
Because that's the only offensive play that has consistently been great.
That is true. That is very true. Which now brings us to our predictions, and then we will bounce out for the night. And I will have you take the floor first.
I don't know what this Eagles team is. And that's very, very frustrating. Last time that the Eagles played Tampa Bay in the wild card round, I remember being on this show and buying into the hype that the Eagles had the ability. We got the team against us that we wanted in the playoffs. We were going to go in and we were going to beat Tom Brady in the playoffs in the wild card. And obviously we didn't. But I had an excitement about this team. And this year, I don't know what this team is. And because of that, I, in good conscience, cannot pick the Eagles to flip a switch and all of a sudden be the team that I have wanted them to be all season. I think the Eagles' season is mercifully ended on Monday night, 34-30.
That's tough. That is tough. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a really close game. I will go the opposite, and I will stick with the Eagles here. Eagles win 24-16, moving on to the divisional round. I don't have a lot of confidence in it.
Yeah.
That is where I am going on this game.
I mean, listen, if we can hold the Bucs team to 16 points, I will be phenomenally happy. But like you mentioned, the battle right now is the defense. And I think the offense will be able to get it together and put up some points. But I just don't have faith in our defense to stop Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and all of the weapons that they have. Hell, I think Cade Otton is going to go off.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Chip and I will be back next week. We will talk about this game, break a lot down. Hopefully we don't got to talk about the offseason yet. We can talk about the next matchup, but we will see from there. But with that, we always end it with
an optimistic.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews,